aside from wanting to take over the world, just like everybody else.
This video contains some spoilers for the first and second episode of this show. Okay, so most people probably looked at this and thought, hey, the Thundermons, but bad guys. But I watched it and I gotta say, it's more like the Wizards of Waverly Place, but bad guys. And the Thundermans, with just a sprinkle of Good Luck Charlie. I went into this show because after seeing the trailer, I wanted to see if the comparisons to the Nickelodeon show was fair, but also to see if it was worth watching as its own thing.
How could you fail me?
Same way I failed everyone else, slowly and with great joy.
The Villains of Valley View follows a family of villains on the run from the legion of supervillains after they find themselves on the bad side of their boss, Onyx. As for the family, well, the trailer introduces them about as well as I could.
That's me, Amy, you know, just your average girl. This is my brother Jake. He has some strong qualities. My parents, they're shockingly typical. Well, I also have a younger brother, Colby. What up, fam? He's going through changes. We're the Maddens. Just your normal, wholesome, good family.
Now that we've been introduced to most of the cast, let's address the idea of this show being a villainous take on the Thundermans. It kind of is, but there's a bit more to it than just that. I mean, off the top of my head, the first episode of both shows involves the family talking about having to keep their identities a secret, the main girl's brother inviting a girl from school over to be her friend and putting their secret in jeopardy with a ridiculous device. On top of that, the main guy is the one person trying to go down a different path from the rest of his family to their constant derision. Also the sets, specifically the 4 major sets: living room, kitchen, underground lair, and school courtyard. I also make comparisons to Wizards of Waverly Place, giving the sibling dynamic of responsible nerdy guy, troublemaking snarky girl, and the younger runs who does dumb things. It's small, but I noticed it. And yes, the sprinkle of Good Luck Charlie is Patricia Belcher as the family's neighbor, because I've got to give Mrs. Dabney a thumbs up even if her name is Celia now. But you know, for all the comparisons I can make, that doesn't make this a bad show. While it has tropes that can be found in its predecessors in the weird family pretends to be normal genre, these tropes are spun in interesting ways thanks to the uniqueness of the characters and the premise. Let's look at the main siblings. Yeah, Max and Jake are trying to be different, but they're going in very different directions. Jake is trying to be a better person, and there's a funny mean-spiritedness to having his family of supervillains make fun of him for trying, and sometimes failing, to be a better person than them. Amy by default is just explicitly different from Phoebe, because while Phoebe is a, well, goody two-shoes, Amy is literally what if Max from Wizards of Waverly Place was encouraged to be as bad as she possibly could be. I mean, let's look back at those comparisons I made earlier with a closer look. Max invited Cherry over to be able to get away with causing trouble without Phoebe catching him. Jake invited Hartley over so that she could be friends with Amy and help her become a better person. It's similar, but different enough to be its own thing. And I would be remiss in not mentioning Hartley, Celia's granddaughter, who, if we're still comparing, is just so much better than Cherry. I'm not sorry. Instead of playing into the best friend is dumb trope, or dragging out the inevitable reveal, the writers decided it'd be more interesting if she found out early so they could play with that dynamic, which better suits the whole them being supervillains thing than it would have with them being superheroes. Honestly, she might be my favorite character after what happens when the family tries to blackmail her into keeping their secret in episode 2, giving the preppy nice girl some depth that makes me totally believe she'd befriend the supervillain her favorite hero in fights. Like, I didn't even expect her to notice something was happening, even though it was obvious, because that's what normally happens in these kind of shows. And like I mentioned, the show does have a rather enjoyable mean-spiritedness to it, because it focuses on villains.
Did you know she's never lied to her grandmother? Ever. Oh, well, that does it for me. I can't trust anyone that doesn't lie to their own family.
And despite that, the dynamics between the characters are still great.
We knew you were bummed about never getting to be a villain, so Jake and I wanted to give you a break from your otherwise pointless life.
As its own thing, I think it's a solid enough watch. Take that recommendation as you will, considering this is a Disney Channel show for kids. I wouldn't call it groundbreaking. If anything, getting older is making me recognize flaws that probably existed in old shows I was too young and too not a YouTuber to notice. But I was a fan of Wizards and the Thundermans when I was in their age demographic, and this show gives me similar vibes that makes me totally believe it would have been on my must-watch list when I was 12. Check it out if you watch kids shows as much as I do. It might surprise you. At the very least, if you liked either of the shows I've mentioned in this video, consider it a different flavored sample of something you already like. Does what I've said make you feel any interest in the show? Tell me in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more content, because I just know the algorithm will try to smother this video. Thank you and good day.